Namaste Vidya, Hamisha Khush Raho. A very good morning to you all. Myself, JV'n Dr. Ravi Jain, Assistant Professor, Department of Practice of Medicine, Faculty of Homeopathic Science, JAYOTI VIDYAPEETH Women's University. In today's lecture, we are going to start with dermatology. And today, we are going to discuss about the introduction to dermatology, lecture 1. This is the anatomy of the skin, and this you have already studied in your first year, so I will not be repeating it again and again. But today's lecture is basically an introductory lecture that will be telling you about the skin, anatomy of the skin, the different layers of the skin and the functions of the skin. So in today's lecture, we are going to cover the basic concept of anatomy and physiology that you have already studied in your first year. So the skin has 3 layers, you all know about it: epidermis, dermis, and subcutaneous tissues. We have various glands, we have various kind of cells, hair follicle is there, and different arteries and veins are there. So these all things constitute of the epidermis, sorry, the skin. So let's start with the introduction part. Dermatology is literally the study of the skin. So in dermatology, you need to study about the skin. The branch of medicine that is concerned with the diagnosis, the treatment, and the prevention of the diseases of the skin, hair, nails, oral cavity, and the genitalia. So it is a branch of medicine that is concerned with the diagnosis, the treatment, the prevention of the diseases of the skin, hair, nails, and oral cavity, and the genitalia. Skin is the largest organ of the body, and it is the interface between the man and the environment. The area of the skin is 2 meters square, and it weighs around 4 kilograms. Let's go to the layers of the skin. There are 3 layers of the skin. We have epidermis, dermis, and the underlying subcutaneous tissue. The epidermis is the outermost layer of the skin, and it provides a waterproofing barrier and creates the skin tone. The dermis lies beneath the epidermis and contains a tough connective tissue, hair follicles, and the sweat glands. So it contains connective tissue, hair follicles, and sweat gland. All of them are embedded in the dermis. And the deeper layer of the subcutaneous tissue consists of the hypodermis and is made up of fat and connective tissue. So these are the 3 layers of the skin. Let's discuss them one by one. So this is epidermis, the outermost layer. We have dermis, and then the subcutaneous tissue or the fat. Now epidermis. Epidermis is the outermost layer, and it is a non-vascular stratified epithelium. The thickness is between 0.7 to 0.12 millimeter, and it consists of keratinocytes and melanocytes with a small proportion of dendritic cells. The most important dendritic cells includes Langerhans cells and Merkel cells. So it is the outermost, the epidermis is the outermost non-vascular stratified epithelium, thickness 0.7 to 0.12 millimeter, consists of keratinocytes and melanocytes, and important dendritic cell includes Langerhans and Merkel cells. So this is the basic anatomy of the epidermis. We have stratum corneum, lucidum, granulosum, spinosum, and basal layer, and it contains certain melanocytes in the innermost layer, the middle layer, the dermis. There are various cells like dead cells that are filled with keratin that lies in the stratum corneum, and there are various lamellar granules in the granulosum layer, and we have keratinocytes in the spinosum layer, and Merkel cells in the basal layer basically, and we also have a sensory neuron. So this is the structure of the epidermis. Now we will be discussing the 5 layers one by one. The layers of epidermis, from inside to out, we have the stratum basalis or the germinativum. Then we have stratum spinosum or the Malpighi, or it is also known as the prickle cell layer. We have stratum granulosum. Then we have stratum lucidum, and the outermost is the stratum corneum. So this is the distribution: stratum corneum, the outermost, the stratum lucidum, then granulosum, spinosum, basal layer, and these 5 constitutes the epidermis, and then lies the dermis. Now let's discuss them one by one. Layers of the epidermis. The innermost of the epidermis is stratum basilis, or it is also known as the germinativum. It is the deepest layer and it is composed of the columnar cells. The whole of the epidermis germinates from this layer, therefore it is known as the germinativum. Next we have stratum malpighi, or the prickle cell layer. It is composed of polyhedral cells that are connected to each other by the intercellular bridges, and the bridges are known as the desmosomes. It plays a very important role in anchoring the cells. The next we have stratum granulosum. The stratum granulosum is composed of the fusiform cells. These contains keratohyalin and lysosomal enzymes. There are Alden bodies which are found which form the waterproof barrier. There are various Langerhans cells are found and they play an important role in the graft rejection. So graft rejection, stratum granulosum is responsible for the cases of graft rejection. Next we have stratum lucidum. Stratum lucidum, in the palmoplantar skin, an additional layer is present, and it is the transition between the granulosum and the stratum corneum. The layer contains refractile elidine, and it is a precursor of keratin that is present in the outermost stratum cornea. And then we come to the outermost layer, that is the stratum corneum, and it is the most superficial layer of the skin. It consists of many layers of non-nucleated, flattened and cornified cells. So we have non-nucleated, flattened, cornified cells in stratum corneum, and it is thickest on the palms and soles, and thinnest at the lips, glans, penis, and eyes. Next, we come to the dermis. The dermis lies beneath the epidermis, and it has two layers. The upper one is the papillary dermis, and the lower one is the reticular dermis. So the superficial area adjacent to the epidermis is called as the papillary dermis, and the deeper, thicker area is known as reticular dermis. So in dermis, we have two layers, papillary dermis and the reticular dermis. This is the diagram of, first of all, you have epidermis, the above, and then we have dermis, that is papillary layer, and the reticular layer. Now we come to the functions of the skin. What are the different functions of the skin? We have studied about the anatomy of the skin, the different layers of the skin. Now we come to the functions of the skin. The anatomy part is over. Now we come to the physiology. So the most important function of the skin is the protection. Protection against chemicals, the particles, desiccations, ultraviolet radiations, antigens, microbes. The next important function is the maintenance of the fluid balance. It prevents loss of water, electrolytes, and macromolecules. It acts as a shock absorber, and there is a strong elastic and compliant covering. There is sensation in the nerve endings, mediate pain leading to the withdrawal, and itch leading to the scratching. Other functions includes vitamin D synthesis. There is synthesis of the vitamin D. Temperature regulation is a very important function. Next, we have protection and fine manipulation of the smaller objects. The other functions includes hormonal. Hormonal function includes testosterone synthesis. It also covers pheromonal functions like apocrine sweat glands. There are psychosocial, grooming, and sexual behavior related to the skin, which can be seen on hair, nails, appearance, and tactile quality of the skin of an individual. So these are the various functions. I will again repeat the functions. Protection, maintenance of the fluid balance, shock absorber, sensations, vitamin D synthesis, temperature regulation, protection and fine manipulation of the smaller objects, hormonal, pheromonal, psychosocial, grooming, and sexual behavior. Now, what is the need to study dermatology? Dermatology is basically a visual specialty, and accurate diagnosis is required for requires adequate history of the patient, careful examination of the case of the skin, and lab investigation. All these things are very important. Adequate history has to be taken, careful examination need to be done, and the lab investigation are needed to be done for making an accurate diagnosis in the case of dermatology. So this was all about the first lecture, and in the next lecture we are going to discuss about the history taking and various clinical patterns. We are going to deal with the primary lesions of the skin in the next lecture. So this session was powered by Digital Version 2.0, JAYOTI VIDYAPEETH Women's University. I hope you are satisfied with my digital session. If you have any query, please mention in the comment box. I'll try to resolve it. So this was all for today. I'll be meeting in the next lecture tomorrow. Thank you very much. Have a good day.